that, we will get started. So welcome everyone to the Decision 5 Residency Supports TCLAS Initiative Kickoff Webinar. We're excited to talk to you today about this critical work you're about to engage in to implement high quality sustainable residencies through through residency supports. So just a quick introduction for our team. Our team is growing. So Jessica McLaughlin is our Director of Educator Standards Testing and Preparation, and she is not with us for this hour, but you will see her in many spaces related to the residency supports. I'm Melissa Yoder, and I'm the Director of Educator Residencies and Talent Pipelines. With me on the line today, I also have my team, which includes Camille Davenport, Teacher Residencies and Talent Pipeline Specialist, and Ebony Love, our Educator Preparation and Capacity Building Specialist. And I'm just so excited and thrilled to have my amazing team here today as we work with you on this webinar kickoff. Just a few quick TCLAS overall reminders, which if you have participated in other awards, you've already heard these. But our agenda today will go as such. We'll conduct our welcome and introductions. We'll engage in TCLAS award next steps right now. And then we'll go into our Decision 5 specific deep dive and then recap overall next steps. You may ask questions in the chat in the question and answer box in Zoom. We'll do our best to follow up in a Q&A following this webinar. And then this is being recorded, and these slides, as it was already asked, will be available and posted on our tea.texas.gov/TCLAS shortly after this webinar concludes. A few quick reminders about TCLAS next steps. So congratulations, you've already completed your award confirmation survey and recommitted to program assurances for all awards awarded supports. Right now, you are here, you are in program onboarding, and this is, I believe, the last day of program onboarding for TCLAS decisions. And then finally, you'll have the responsibility of completing that e-grants application to receive your NOGA. There are optional supports available, including the TCLAS e-grant calculator, and then the e-grants webinar and office hours. This opens mid-September and it closes October 29th, and it's processed on a first come first served basis. And then we want to remind you that all this information is detailed in your award confirmation email and the attached PDF that you received. So we are here. We are on September 21st in the Decision 5 Residency Supports webinar. Again, all webinar registration links are available on that TCLAS website, as well as probably most importantly, those recordings and slides. Just a quick reminder that those the eGrant supports webinars that I just spoke of, there are still some available beginning Friday 9/24, and they occur at 9 a.m. And those will continue through Friday at 10/29. And these are for district staff submitting those eGrants applications. All right, well, with that, let's dive into our Decision 5 Residency Program Supports deep dive. During this section of the webinar, we're going to take a moment to walk through background context about high quality sustainable residencies made possible through innovative staffing models, some Decision 5 grant program guidelines, and immediate next steps for districts. So again, third time we're going to say congratulations, but in accepting the TCLAS Decision 5 Residency Supports, you are well on your way to building meaningful educator pipelines in your district. This grant enables you to build a high quality sustainable residency through innovative staffing models, where you'll be able to leverage existing district resources to sustain teacher residency stipends well beyond the lifetime of this TCLAS grant funding. So we're asking you to imagine a world where all of your incoming teachers new teachers have already had intensive, authentic classroom experience in your district and are day one ready to meet the needs of your students. let's back up and refresh on some of the initial grant context first. So as you very well recall, this grant decision had 3 parts. In this decision, the grant allocates support through decision 5A, which includes resident stipends, and 5B, residency implementation support, and 5C, in-kind technical assistance to support you to design and implement those staffing models that will allow you to sustainably fund your residents. In this grant, you also had the option to request resident stipend funding and related residency support funds for up to 20 residents per year, beginning in the 2021-22 school year. And then 5C supports the in-kind technical assistance that will be provided to districts in 2022 from an approved innovative staffing technical assistance provider. We'll dig into both 5A and 5B as well as 5C. Going a little deeper into 5A and 5B, which allow for you to implement paid teacher residencies in partnership with a high quality educator preparation program. Let's kind of go back to that ideal state again, right? Imagining that world where your teachers entered your classrooms day one ready to meet the needs of your students, where your incoming teachers are prepared in your district context prior to day one, learning within your district context, where they have the opportunity to engage in practice-based learning on a daily basis in your classrooms, and where they receive daily coaching and support from high-quality mentor teachers in your schools. And what if they were already building relationships and contributing to a positive school culture all throughout their preparation? So high-quality residencies provide the contextualized preparation and training for candidates that has that incredible impact to support that day one readiness for new teachers, really making quality residencies a true lever for change and learning acceleration strategy for all students. And you are well on your way to make this a reality through Decision 5 residency program supports. Before we go any further, let's define what is a high quality teacher residency model. So as we define it, a high quality teacher residency model is one in which teacher candidates are paired with experienced, high quality, effective mentor teachers for a full year of clinical training or co-teaching in a K-12 classroom for a minimum of 3 days per week for a full year. Residencies, it's important to note too that residencies can take place at the undergraduate or post-bac level. In some cases, residents receive stipends during year-long residency, and that is what we are trying to work towards in this residency supports grant. In high-quality teacher residency models, the EPP and LEA have shared ownership over the preparation, support, and success of the teacher resident. So you'll hear us emphasize again and again the importance of that shared ownership. Just a little bit of data for some context setting, and I believe we've shared similar information in past webinar series, that we really do believe that high quality teacher residencies are the catalyst to your educator talent pipeline. Some national research here indicates that about 20 to 30% of new teachers leave the profession within the first 5 years, and that attrition is even higher in high poverty schools and in high need subject areas. But studies also show on the flip side that teacher residency programs consistently point to the high retention rates of their graduates, even after several years in the profession, generally ranging from about 80 to 90% in the same district after 3 years and 70 to 80% after 5 years. So that's just one snapshot of some national data that was collected showing the impact that residency programs really can have on that teacher retention in your district. And that retention also leads to those improved student outcomes. Early residency studies have also indicated that students of teachers who participated in a residency program outperform students of non-residency prepared teachers on select state assessments. So this is just such critical information to have for us to have as background context, and it further supports this as a true learning acceleration strategy. Let's dive a little bit deeper into the 5A and 5B supports to implement a high quality teacher residency program within the LEA. So just landing on some of those benefits first, through those 5A and 5B supports, teacher residents will be receiving high quality educator preparation while learning within the LEA's context and serving the LEA students. And it also enables the district, to build that pipeline of high quality future educators to meet your district needs. As we just showed, residents have a trajectory of the trajectory of staying in their classrooms in their districts. The TCLAS Decision 5 supports also help you to work towards these benefits with the following requirements and supports. So within the TCLAS grant, partnership with an EPP on the vetted teacher residency program list is required, right? A quality residency program is simply not possible without an educator preparation program that has done the incredibly challenging work of developing this quality residency model that meets the criteria of that teacher residency model definition and more. All awarded districts have already verified that partnership with a vetted teacher residency program, but we can't emphasize enough the importance of that partnership. Additionally, this award allows for stipends to fund teacher resident roles, right? 5A supports award $20,000 in a living stipend that goes directly to that teacher resident. And there is also additional funding to support residency and innovative staffing model implementation. So but the 5B supports that $5,000 per teacher per year can go towards those supports that support the implementation of the residency and the staffing. So it could look like mentor teacher stipends, LEA funded position funding, EPP funding support. There's a broad approach to how you could support that, as so long as it's supporting that residency implementation. Going back to that critical partnership, as a reminder, our vetted teacher residency program list is as stands. And just to recap, your EPP partner on the vetted teacher residency program list has confirmed your partnership. And if you have not already done so, we encourage you to contact your vetted teacher residency program partner as soon as possible to begin coordination. It's highly likely that many of your programs have already contacted you. But if not, starting that conversation will be important, but we'll recap that next step at the end of this webinar as well. All right, let's shift over. Decision 5 supports LAs in implementing high quality sustainable residencies, specifically as it relates to the implementation of innovative staffing models to sustainably fund teacher residencies and build educator pipelines. We've mentioned this before, but in order to maintain the high quality paid residency beyond the grant's life cycle, it's so important to focus on the sustainability from the start. So the 5C in-kind capacity building support to implement those innovative staffing models provides LEAs with direct technical assistance to support that planning to reallocate existing resources to pay for residents' living stipends and maintain residency implementation supports. Let's take a look, because we keep talking about innovative staffing and what this looks like. So, but it helps to ground ourselves in a few examples of what innovative staffing models could mean. So we've shared a couple examples here from a very broad continuum of models that could be adapted to truly meet the needs and context of an LEA. The first example shows one model where they've reallocated unfilled paraprofessional roles using those lines to fund resident salaries and designing the role of the resident on campus to split time as a para and co-teacher. The second example shows a timely example of leveraging those residents for tutoring time. So for example, residents can support campus tutoring needs in their additional time on campus outside of their required clinical experience. Then that district could potentially use some of those funds to allocate to resident stipends. They may have gone to someone else or to an outside provider. And those are just examples, and clearly a lot more details go into planning those and designing that work. And that's why we have the capacity building supports. But just want to reemphasize that our overall goal here is to fund teacher residency positions through district allocation of district dollars long-term, so that districts are not reliant on grant funding to carry this work forward. So going back into that support to design and implement an innovative staffing model for teacher residency sustainability, just to summarize here, some of the benefits that this support provides for include supporting districts to develop those innovative staffing models that will allow them to fund teacher resident salaries within district budgets. Resident stipends, just want to emphasize here, I think it's a good point to point this out. Resident stipends are key for many candidates to be able to engage in this type of teacher preparation that they frankly deserve and that students deserve, to be able to offset those living expenses and the need to work another job while in their preparation programs, which is a very real reality for many teacher candidates and also prospective teacher candidates, right? It also supports the potential to expand educator pipelines through teacher leader and teacher resident roles. Let's talk about that for a second. The quality teacher residency model positions teacher leaders to engage in formal, incentivized mentor teacher roles on campus, providing them the opportunity for a paid leadership opportunity while they can still maintain touch points with students. So think about it that way. Your most effective teachers are both engaging in a leadership experience that's going to develop other teachers, but also maintain touch points with their students. And so students will still be paired with the most effective teachers. Of course, the residence development benefits from this one-to-one mentorship support, thereby increasing that resident's skill and their preparedness to be a teacher of record. Additionally, the resident ultimately has that meaningful role on campus. And as mentioned before, can also support in other capacities on campus, such as tutoring, for example. TCLAS requirements and supports, let's recap those for a second. During the implementation of the grant, your district will engage in a needs assessment to determine the innovative staffing model approach. We'll be providing more guidance and information about that as we head into late fall, early spring. And then in-kind technical assistance will be provided to design and implement innovative staffing models. This is complex work, this is hard work. And for that reason, we felt it was very important to support all of you in approaching this design and implementation work. So let's take a minute to pull up to the highest level to the TCLAS timeline for teacher residency supports. So here we are in fall of 2021, the very early launch phase of these residency supports. So residency implementation for year one is currently underway, whether it is through that beginning formal agreement partnership conversation, or you had an existing partnership already with your educator preparation program and you've already launched those residents fully. Beginning in summer of 2022, spring of 2022, the 5C components for innovative staffing model design and implementation begin. That's where innovative staffing model design, your work will begin in summer of 2022 in support of the innovative staffing model implementation that will occur starting in summer of 2023 in preparation for the 23-24 school year. So in summary, across all 3 years, we're providing eligible districts with 3 years of teacher resident stipend funding for 3 cohorts of teacher residents, along with those 5B supports, which are our residency supports. In years 2 and 3, we're able to provide eligible districts with that in-kind technical assistance to design in year 2, so that'd be 22-23, and then implement in 23-24 those innovative staffing models that will allow for resident funding to sustain over time beyond the life of this grant. And then year 4 and beyond, hopefully with this work, districts will sustainably fund residencies through innovative staffing models, and districts will establish the foundations for a strong educator pipeline. All right, so let's take a look at the assurances for this grant, those program requirements for this grant decision. We're going to walk through each of those assurances, and we'll begin with the applicant, the LEA, and EPP partnership, which is incredibly important. And in this assurance, you are assure that you would establish a partnership with a vetted teacher residency program, and that you'll engage in meaningful partnership activities with your partner EPP. Let's take a look at those. This assurance in particular has several short-term follow-up priorities that we'll name again at the end of this webinar. A few points that we want to highlight here. You'll want to ensure that you communicate with your EPP partner as soon as possible to produce an MOU or a signed letter of commitment to engage in the residency partnership if you have not already done so. Districts must also ensure that they hold governance meetings with governance structure meetings with their EPP partner at least 3 times annually to analyze teacher resident data and develop those plans for teacher residency continuous improvement. These are absolutely critical to the development and ongoing support of the residency implementation. The applicant, the district, must also assure that you'll report the following data to TE annually, including the number of teacher residents participating in the year-long residency, demographics of teacher residents participating in programs, the number and type of teacher certifications awarded, and then also the number of teacher residents hired as full-time teachers within the LEA the following year. Of course, we are going to provide timely guidance on when to submit this data, and we'll provide follow-up as well. And then finally, you'll commit to attending quarterly high-quality sustainable teacher residency webinars in 21-22, leading up to some of that design work. And of course, we will be communicating in a timely fashion about those opportunities. Let's move on to the teacher residency program structure, in which you assure that you recruit, train, and support teacher residents during a full year clinical teaching experience, and also the assurance to match those residents with strong mentor teachers. A few things to highlight in the teacher residency program structure. Want to emphasize here once again that this is completely dependent on district and EPP partnership. Your vetted teacher residency program, your partnership there is absolutely critical, as together you'll collaboratively develop that resident profile that's aligned to the district context and needs, and you'll plan for and implement a teacher residency program that is 1 academic year in length with at least 3 days per week of teaching under the supervision of that assigned mentor teacher. And these assurances also speak to the support for the mentor teacher. So you'll develop that mentor teacher profile and provide training and support in mentorship and co-teaching best practices to the mentors. And then of course, you and the EPP partner will assure that you'll adhere to all educator preparation program requirements in the Texas Administrative Code. So every single one of these assurances here states the applicant and the EPP partner. It is absolutely critical that you are pairing with your vetted teacher residency program partner to work through these really important decisions. Moving on to innovative staffing design and implementation, where you'll ensure that you'll designate a team to participate in innovative staffing model training and support, leading to the design and implementation of the innovative staffing model. There's a couple highlights here that we wanted to point out. Want to emphasize here that the applicant will have committed a team of district and campus-based personnel to collaborate with the EPP partner and the technical assistance provider to engage in this design work. And we will provide more guidance around this into the spring, but this is really important, that ability to commit those resources on the front end is absolutely important to supporting that design work. And again, we'll provide more information about what that will look like. The applicant must also assure that they'll design and implement an innovative staffing model plan that will ensure that teacher residency, this teacher residency will be sustainably funded through district dollars by 2024-2025 school year, to include the funding for the residency stipends and salaries. Again, this will be an outcome of the capacity building work you will engage in through those 5C supports. And finally, for that high quality sustainable residency funding, this speaks to what is happening right now, as many of you are starting to launch having those residents on your campus with those paid funds. So making sure that you'll provide the teacher residents with a $20,000 stipend and use the additional grant funding to support residency and innovative staffing model implementation. All right, so regarding next steps for these supports, we've already mentioned previously, but you'll coordinate a kickoff meeting with your EPP partner to review the assurances and finalize that MOU, formal partnership agreement, if you have not done so already. And then please be on the lookout for additional information on the residency support program webinars, required data collections, and then standing communication structures. We know that in the world of having so much happening at once in districts, and we know that you have multiple TCLAS supports among everything else that you do that you're trying to integrate and implement. So we will be providing some standing communication with follow-ups and next steps related to these the residency supports. I am going to pause there for just a second, and I'm not going to get to everything in the chat. But I'm gonna check out the Q&A for some questions really quickly, just because I think we have a little bit of extra time. So the 5K per teacher resident should be used to support residency program implementation. So it could be used to support training of mentor teachers, right? That would make sense. Good question. You will work to set up governance structures with your EPPs. And I think that that's a great, we had a question about governance meetings need to be separate to if working with multiple EPPs. You'll have to coordinate across two, and we'll be able to provide further guidance around that with the EPPs that are serving your district. I had another question about 5B, the $5,000. Yes, the $5,000 can be used for the mentor stipends. We have a question about using the 5A $20,000 living stipend to supplement a resident stipend that you are already paying your districts. Yes, that stipend can be used in a supplemental way. So if you receive the NOGA this month, do you have funds to support residents for this fall 2021 and spring 2022? So if you receive the NOGA this month and you have residents who are working this fall, you can support them through their work this fall and onto the spring. We also know that some districts are starting their year one residents in the spring start in January, and you can also use the year one funding for those spring start residents. Peggy, there is not a list of allowable and unallowable expenditures in the flexible funding as of right now, but I think we avoided that for sake of not putting too many limits. But we can, if you can directly reach out to, we'll have our web address, but TEA Teacher Residency. If you have specific questions, we can provide guidance. Great. All right, I'm going to pause here. What we will do is we will receive this chat and this Q&A from this webinar, and we will be able to roll up a Q&A document to provide you all some better answers to your questions. There are a lot of good questions in there, but I do have some closing next steps that I want to make sure that we get to. I think there are some questions in there that this may pertain to. So these closing and next steps are related to the overall TCLAS implementation, including residency supports, but also the other TCLAS decisions that you may have chosen. We want to just re-emphasize that this support is designed to have a significant and lasting impact on the learning acceleration for your students and requires a significant amount of time and effort from you and your staff. So we know it's a heavy lift, but that it will have a large impact. And we wanted to note here that if after today's webinar, you do not believe your LEA can fully commit to all the requirements and assurances of this support, please immediately email tclass@tea.texas.gov. Again, that's tclass@tea.texas.gov. So in terms of next steps, you're well underway, having already completed that award confirmation survey, and you've attended your mandatory training. So for homework, you'll complete additional onboarding as outlined in the PDF attachment to the award confirmation survey. For this specific decision, the biggest next step takeaway is really about coordinating that initial meeting with your educator preparation program. And then additionally, you'll go through the process of completing those e-grants applications. Again, there's another office hours this Friday from 9 to 10. And then we want to remind you that all this information is detailed in your award confirmation email and the attached PDF. All right. So again, all broader TCLAS related questions, such as like, when do my funds get dispersed? When do I receive year one, year two, year three? How does this funding enter into my district? Those will be questions for TCLAS at tea.texas.gov. But for decision point specific questions for decision 5, please email TEA Teacher Residency at tea.texas.gov. We'll be able to help you with those, right? And y'all have asked some great questions in the chat that I want to fully address in writing to support you in this process. So we'll be able to roll those back out to you fairly quickly. And I'm just checking real quick to see if there are a couple more. So I have a question about the requirements that other districts are using to choose which teacher candidates get a paid residency. These are all great questions that I think in discussing with your educator preparation program partner will be helpful. If you had designated that you wanted, for example, we have a question about losing money if we start paid teacher residencies in January 2022, as opposed to, I think, fall of 2021. if you had designated originally that you wanted to start them in the fall, but then you realized it was a better decision to start them in January of 2022, and you still want to have your, let's say you said 5 for the fall, and you're still going to start those 5 in 2022, you won't lose money if you start them there. You'll still be able to accommodate those stipends. And then there's another question about, do we have an MOU that is specific to teacher paid residencies? I'm not sure if I know what the question here is, but in your MOU, you would outline your partnership with your district and your goals of it. Also that you'll know that you are paying those at the most 20, depending on how many you selected year over year. So that conversation about how many residents will be really important. Expectations on the stipend. You'll be able, when you outline your roles and responsibilities for your resident, you'll be able to work with your ed prep program to outline, hey, like these are the things we need to see in the resident's role for receiving the stipend. In the TCLAS grant, residents need to be participating in that year-long residency to be eligible for the stipend. We have a question related to grow your own. We want to emphasize here that this decision point is not connected to the grow your own grant or the TCLAS supports. To the person who asked that question, we're totally happy to continue that conversation. That conversation via TA teacher residency if you want more information there. And yes, you will get a copy of the slides. We'll post those online. Someone asked a question. We entered 0 for the number of residents for this year to begin in 2022. They said that we could use this as a planning year. Yes. So for those of you who put 0 residents for year 1, but you have 20 and 20 in year 2 and 3, for example, that's okay. So we have a question about sustaining the program without TCLAS funding. So remember, for the next 3 years, you will get residency stipends and those residency support funds of $5,000 per resident for this year, next year, and the year after. 2023-24 is the final year. Beyond 23-24, you will no longer get those stipends. So the goal of the work in 2022 to 2023 and 23 to 24 with the capacity building support is to figure out how to make the residency stipend sustainable through reallocation of existing funds. And that will be the innovative staffing supports model that you'll build with the support of that technical assistance provider and in partnership with the EPPs who are supporting. See a lot of questions about spring 2022. So yes, if you accepted funds for year 1, and you have teachers who could not start in the fall, but you're now looking at a spring start in January of 2022, that is okay. Those funds will still work. All right, so we will be rolling up the rest of these questions into an FAQ, and we thank you all for attending today. And please, if you have individual questions, feel free to email TEA Teacher Residency at tea.texas.gov. Thank you.